There was this beautiful moment that happened in one of my sessions today, and I want to share it with you. If you are new to me, I'm Dan Candel. I'm known worldwide as the anxiety relief guy. I'm a board certified hypnotist, and it's my job to help people reprogram their subconscious minds so they get more of what they want in life. Make sure you check the link in the description so that way you can see some of the things that can help you, some resources that can help you. So let's get to getting. There was a client that I had today, and this was a person, much like many of the clients I work with, their minds work a million miles an hour. And I know this because as soon as we logged on and the session was on Zoom, I asked her, I said, "Hey," I said, "what's going on? And how'd you find me?" And this person's like, "Oh my gosh, I found you on social media and I started here and then I went here and then I went there and then I went there and then I went there. And I want to talk to you about this today and I want to talk to you about this. And I don't know how much time we have, but we have this going on and I have this going on and I got to do this and I want to do this." I'm like, "Whoa, pump the brakes." One of the key indicators that helps me determine if people are really struggling with intensity and anxiety is in trauma is they talk really, really fast. And it's almost like they have to get everything out and they have this need to get everything out. And so I noticed that in her, and I notice it in a lot of people. And again, it's not that way for every single person, but it's like that for a lot of people who are anxious or who have experienced trauma, but they're like on the really high functioning side of it. And so, so I told her, I'm like, "Hey, to pump the brakes, pump the brakes." And something beautiful happened. We talked for another like 20 or 30 minutes or so, so I could get some insight into what she's looking for and kind of what's going on in her life and what has happened. And big surprise, guess what? She was an adult child of a substance abuser. And she said it wasn't even that bad. Um, she said, but when one of my parents would use substances, it would provoke the other one to be really mean to us and to go on the defense. Totally get that. Totally understand. And this client said to me, "I guess I just like I've never felt safe and I've never really been shown that like level of compassion that I feel like I needed when I was a kid. So it's really difficult for me to feel safe in relationships. It's hard for me to trust people because the people I was supposed to trust ended up treating me like shit." I'm like, "Yeah, totally get it," and and betraying her. And this is the story of many people who grew up in a whirlwind of chaos, addiction, and substance abuse. People who are now adult children of alcoholics or substance abusers. So I asked this person, I said, "When was the last time specifically you felt safe?" And she looked up like that and she said, "There's only one thing that comes to mind." And it was in a segment of my job when when I had a support team, like a support staff, and they all supported me. And she said that's when I felt really safe. But something happened before she even said that. I said, "When was a time you felt really safe?" And as she looked up like that and she went, "It had to do with work." Did you just spot that? Did you just notice that? You see, hypnosis, trance, if you wanna call it, these little altered states, they happen in such an organic way. And her body told me that safety to her happened it was like a sigh of relief. And when I feel safe, it's like a sigh of relief. I just like, shoom, I just like let everything go, and it's like a sigh of relief. And I pointed that out to her, and she was very, very surprised. And I said, "Is that the only time you felt safe, secure, steady?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's the only time that I can think of that brought me the level of safety and security that I needed." I said, "Okay, okay." And so that tells me that we want to go on we want to go on a little ride here of some metaphors of safety, security, stability, strength. Uh, because all that stuff happened when she felt supported. So then my mind started going, okay, what are a bunch of things that support us? And so I had this client close her eyes. As close your eyes for a moment and just think about where you're sitting right now. You're sitting in a chair. That chair beneath you is supporting your body, is it not? And she said, it is. And there was that sigh of relief again. She goes, it is. I said, okay. I said, when you go to bed tonight, the bed that you're sleeping in, it supports you, right? And she goes, yeah. And she just started to slow down. And I said, as you wake up in the morning and your feet hit the ground, the floor is strong beneath you, right? It has a strong foundation. It supports you. So you can be safe as you walk along the floor, right? And she goes, yeah. I said, okay. And I gave a couple more examples like that. And I said, so this feeling of support, of safety, what color would you give it? And she said, purple. I said, purple, interesting. Okay. I said, you'd give it the color purple. All right. I said, where would this safe, secure purple feeling, where would it start in your body? And she said, my heart. I said, right, because the heart beats with safety, security, stability, right? And I said, just allow it to flow through all of your extremities. And I guided her through a little bit of a process like that. We went on through this process for another like 10 or 15 minutes or so. And then I said, okay, now just open your eyes and let me know what you notice. And she really slowed down. And she said, well, I noticed a feeling of like this warm, melting feeling. This just like everything is going to be okay feeling. Excellent. That's safety, that's security, that's stability, that's support, right? And she said, yes. I said, you can support yourself, right? So it starts with self support. She goes, yeah. I said, okay, we're going to do something with that in a future session. And she really slowed down. And you see, doing things like this can really help make a shift. And I call this deep insight. And really listening to clients and really listening to the meaning underneath the words or the meaning beyond the words can really help them tap into their own resourcefulness. As a hypnotist, that's my job. My job as a hypnotist is to help you tap into your own resources so that way you can change your mind. That's it. That's my job as a hypnotist. And and by the way, we don't need a really deep trance where you're feeling or looking like you're knocked out. We also don't need a pocket watch that we wave back and forth. We take advantage of these resource states that are already within you. I'm just helping you tap into them and I'm helping you give things a slightly different meaning, which can change your mind and shift your perspective and thus shifting your life. This is powerful stuff, my friends. This is also exactly what I teach. This is the way I teach my students how to do hypnosis and how to play an active role in their clients' healing, how to really pay attention and look for the meaning behind what the client is saying, to also find trends so that way they can capitalize on those trends. It's pretty powerful stuff, and it makes me really happy and proud to do this type of work. With that said, my friends, make sure you follow my page for more. Make sure you rate, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you have any questions. As always, be well, do good, be true to who you are, and happy healing.